Richard. Hello.
Over. No.
What a week, eh?
It's been 7 days. Yes.
It's more than 7 for us.
Yeah. That is true. We've had
since the last podcast, but
lots of
especially the
transfers.
last loads.
Lots of goals going in. Lots of transfers. Lots of goals going in Rijeka's net. Lots of call-offs from the national team. Lots of
injuries.
Yeah.
Lots of Champions League games, more than ever seen before.
Yeah, there's so much to go through, isn't there? I mean, I suppose. Do you want to start off with the depressing stuff and then work?
I do not want to on a depressing note. I'm not that. I want to
start with Rijeka and with Dinamo.
I want the bad news first, then tell me the good news.
Okay. We'll start with Rijeka. In the middle, we'll have Rijeka Dinamo, and at the end, we'll have Dinamo, and it'll be a sandwich of football, a sandwich of Europe.
Yeah. Sadly, we have much more to talk about than just those 3 talking points. But let's start off with Rijeka. I said I want to get the bad news first. We're not gonna start off by Dinamo. We're not going chronologically. Let's get the shitty stuff out the bed immediately. So, as many of you know, Rijeka faced off against Olimpija in the Conference League playoff, and the first leg was 1-1. The second leg, it happened.
It certainly did. I mean, you obviously. I know people at Olimpija, so I get on with them. So obviously, I'm very happy for them. Very happy for everyone.
I wonder why.
Slovenian football, because it is. Yeah, I think you sort of go back through their results. It's possibly the best European result they've ever had, and I'm including.
Two teams in Europe.
Not just combining that with Salia, but also just individual from Olimpija. I don't think.
Yeah.
They'd never beaten a side by 5 goals in Europe before, and they beat Rijeka 5-0. And Rijeka obviously are a good side. Also, we thought. But I think Olimpija, when they was managed by a Spanish person, for some reason I
don't know. Like, it's not just them, just in general, Slovenian football, when they get managed by a Spanish coach, it's just I don't know what's with the Slovene-Spanish connection, but it works.
It does, and I think what we saw in that game was the difference between a guy in Delivic who's on his second or third professional match as the main guy, and Victor Sanchez, who has quite a lot of club experience behind him. So he worked with Spanish FA.
Way too much,
and
way more.
More than anything, Victor Sanchez just completely outsmarted him. See. From my side of things, I sort of went through the stats the day after the game, and the thing that Olimpija did better than Rijeka, aside from everything, was that in the away leg they played how you kind of expect Olimpija to play, how they played in every other game this season. Yeah. In this second leg, they completely changed it up. So Rijeka had set up thinking, okay, we're going to have space here, here, and here. We're going to be defending crosses because that's generally what's coming in. And instead, Olimpija just kind of said, we'll let you have the ball. We'll make sure you don't get space, from 30 yards out forwards, where you like to, play through teams and try and take long shots and do this, that, and the other. And we will just hit you on the break. And they did it again.
They did it immediately. And then again, and again, and again.
Yeah. And obviously, I know a lot of the thoughts on it has been around, where a lot of their players came from. Obviously, Raul Floric came from second HNL. Talisson, his first club in Europe was a 4th tier club in Varaždin, if you remember right. I can't remember what they were called now. So, these are rough gems they picked up from the lower leagues in Croatia and done that to, I think who we all thought a team in Rijeka who should have won that tie reasonably easily. But sometimes you just come up against a side and they just absolutely take you apart. I say Victor Sanchez deserves all the credit because he completely outsmarted Rijeka.
And it's not a surprise considering that Jalovic has just come in and he's just carrying over what Sopic has. Sopic had.
Yeah, there was nothing Olimpija did that was revolutionary.
No.
There wasn't anything they did that Rijeka shouldn't have been able to deal with had they prepared for it, but they weren't prepared for it. They weren't prepared for the positioning of some of the players. They weren't prepared for the runs coming, the type of runs that Olimpija were making. They weren't prepared for the type of through balls that Olimpija were doing either. Yeah. And they weren't prepared for Dino Kojic, who we've seen a bit of in the Piva Liga, but Victor's kind of used him sparingly. And then he just comes in and scores one fantastic breakaway goal and does a ridiculous back heel assist as well. And it's just like, okay, yeah you've now definitely got my attention.
Yeah, he has that in the locker.
Yeah.
It was just sad to watch. Like immediately, okay, I was like, okay, second minute goal, okay, poor start, but if you're ever gonna concede a goal, probably early. No. It just started going downhill. I didn't want to watch the match after the third goal, but sadly I have. But I sadly, kind of forced myself to do it, and sadly I did. Sadly.
Yeah.
And eventually we came to another massive talking point in the match, which is the fans, which specifically the Rijeka away fans, the Armada, who not very pleasant, throwing flares into the home stands where children are, families.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there was a little girl who got slightly injured.
So I think there obviously were a few videos of it going about, most of which you have to get the TV broadcast video and cameras from around that way. You can see sort of the flares going into Matej Fidosek's penalty area. He sort of quickly legs it, and the referee calls players off a bit. And while you're in the middle of it, there's also someone who was taking a picture from the quite close to the Rijeka fans in the Olimpija home end, and then you just see this flare disc become and land about 2 rows in front of them. And that obviously isn't okay.
No.
I was very surprised, when we get to it in the Rijeka Dinamo game, that there was similar in terms of there was a lot of smoke on the pitch at a couple of points and a couple of flares about, not to the same extent as Ziche, but you kind of need to know a time and a place, guys. And just after you've just embarrassed yourselves in Europe was not the time.
Yeah, and then they proceeded to set some chairs on fire, and slightly fight with the police whilst being escorted out, which just putting even more flame to the flame.
Mm-hmm. But they did get to miss the last 25 minits of the game.
Yeah, I think that's why they did it. I think they were over it.
Yeah, and I think they just wanted Miskovic to pay a bit of cash.
Yeah, and also I think if the game actually continued, if they didn't stop the game for the flares, if there were no flares, I think Rijeka concedes even more goals.
Agreed. And I think this is one thing. Maybe they're not. Rijeka fans weren't entirely aware. In Slovenia, they are very, very picky about players at the moment. You had the Eternal Olimpija Maribor literally the weekend before. There was an incident with flares. See Maribor Mura in the spring that got cancelled. That got abandoned midway through because Maribor fans threw flares on the pitch and one blew up, exploded, and gave a few players hearing issues and burns. And obviously, this past weekend we saw at Crvena Zvezda the Kukujevac fans throw a firework that landed right next to Kusic. the Slovenian international, and he had to get taken off because of injuries from that. Basically, just don't take. If you're going to take pyro to games, just don't throw it on the pitch.
Yeah, keep it to yourselves.
Yeah.
Keep it to yourselves. Also, there wasn't much police from what I saw, and from what I heard, there was zero police. Almost zero. You could have just gone into the stadium, no questions asked.
Mm-hmm. Which after the build up,
it's not great. Yeah, I mean, what else? I mean, the Rijeka just in general hasn't done good under pressure, and I mean, this is also under pressure. And Vušković, I think, has really tried to not go into Europe, or really tried his best to get Rijeka not into Europe.
Yeah,
to stop that.
Just don't sack your manager mid-tie. I think is really the lesson here. I think not
and then keep the assistant manager, who's not really a manager, never really managed the team before, as the manager of the team.
Yeah, it's as we sort of said, Vušković, sometimes he just has a month or 6 weeks or so where he just decides, I'm going to just completely undermine my general competence. And it seems to have been this past 6 weeks or so.
August.
And I think also one of the things just is Radelic as well. Just in terms of, and it's more than both the first two goals. The first goal from Floric, he steps up, and that's who lets Floric in behind. At the second goal, he's drifting across to try and double up, and that's what leaves Talisman at the back post completely unmarked. Yeah. And we had this, in Rijeka Dinamo in the spring, and it kind of seems Radelic is getting a little bit of a reputation where if it's a really big game for Rijeka, he might be making a mistake or two.
Yeah, he's also not the only one. Rijeka in general just doesn't do good, but they have to get a result.
Yeah. No, I just think he's got a bit of the Amer Gojaks about him.
They just don't do good, but they need a result. Whenever there's not really that much pressure on, I mean, we can perfectly. You have the biggest pressure on you against Olimpija. You have to get through to get into Europe. 5-0 against Dinamo. Everybody right off Rijeka had Rijeka written off before the match because they always just lost 5-0. Dinamo's Dinamo. They beat them Karabakh 5-0, so everybody's behind Dinamo. And then Rijeka, after the first 20-30 minutes where they weren't great, they got back into the game.
Yeah. It's weird.
Yeah.
That means Olimpia must be able to beat Dinamo 5-0. That's the takeaway, I think. Yeah. That's
the takeaway. I think Olimpia would win the HNL 20 years out of 20. But yeah, can we put that behind us now? I don't want to talk about that match ever again.
Yes.
Even as a Hajduk fan, it hurts.
Well, I mean, okay, at least Rijeka had a playoff, let's be fair.
True.
Noah did get past Rožan Berok, and obviously Gira didn't get through. Gira got absolutely...
Rožan Berok almost made a comeback.
Yeah.
They were close.
Gira, they got hammered by Ammonia.
And who's Ammonia's manager?
Oh.
Dambrauskas.
Yes, of course it is.
Yeah. But should we get to the happier news in Europe?
Yes, let's.
As I already mentioned, Dinamo beat Karabakh 5-0 in aggregate, 2-0 away win. I mean, just very good in that away leg. I mean, Ogivara wasn't great, but then again, Dinamo was forcing Karabakh on the other side. So Ogivara was kind of, I mean, the casualty in that situation.
Yeah, but they'd done all the work they needed to. So it's not, they were never going to lose the tie.
No.
But I think they've got a pretty not nice draw. I think it's fair to say. I was doing the Swiss football data, their club game earlier.
Yeah, so I can pull up the draw they got. Here we go.
So I was looking at the Opta stats, in terms of who had the best draw. And obviously, Celtic have the best draw of the entire Champions League, which maybe that says something because Dinamo are part of it. I don't know. But Dinamo don't.
Yeah, so I pulled it up. So Dinamo obviously got from part 1 Dortmund and Bayern. So it shared the gate 2 Bundesliga sides. Last year's Champions League finalist in Dortmund. Dinamo also got in from the second part. They got Milan and Arsenal. Not great. The part 3 was kind of okay with Celtic and Salzburg, and part 4 was also okay. But Monaco, you don't want a top 5 side from the last spot, and you had also Aston Villa in there.
So
and not Heidenheim, sorry, Stuttgart.
Yeah. So just based on what Opta have said, it's the 10th easiest draw they could have got, and I don't think it feels it. I mean, like you say, the Dortmund and Bayern write those games off, and probably Milan and Arsenal. So you're looking ultimately at 4 games. Obviously, I'm not necessarily the most unbiased person when it comes to a Dinamo Celtic game. But I think it's fair to say I would probably expect Celtic to win that. I think Dinamo have it about them to win that game, but I would not see them at all as favourites for it.
Yeah.
The same with Salzburg. They're always a good side. Maybe they're possibly in between generations a little bit this season, but when are they ever not competitive in Europe? So really, I think if we're honest, you've beaten Slovan Bratislava, and that's probably any other points would be a bonus.
I think that's a guarantee to beat Slovan. I think so. Immediately, I like that it's Bayern and Arsenal away because I don't have Dinamo anywhere in those 2 games, not even close. Dortmund and Milan at home, and Monaco at home. I think at least one of those games Dinamo gets something.
Yeah,
I can see them against Monaco. I can see them against Milan. Dortmund, tough, but I can see it still better than Arsenal or Bayern. Celtic at home, you gotta win that if you want to go to be in the top 24.
And I think that applies for both sides, to be fair.
Yeah, that applies to both sides. And Salzburg away, that's also not a must win, but you gotta get something.
Yeah, it's going to be where they can get a point here and there, rather than necessarily racking up the wins. Like you say, if you can take advantage of Milan, Monaco, and get up to 8 points, then you're in with a live chance of the top 24.
Yeah, you need 8 or 9 points. That's preferred. Those are the preferable.
Yeah, and I mean, Slaven Bratislava are just going to get battered 8 times. Yeah, unfortunately for them.
Unless Marko Tolic provides some bangers again.
I mean, obviously he was great in the playoffs, and I mean, I think people always sort of expect he had that higher level in him. He just didn't really save that season at Lokomotiva. He never really showed it on a consistent level, and didn't necessarily get the game time to show it. But he seems to get it there, which is great for him. I don't see Dinamo getting into the top 24, unfortunately. It's one where I was watching the draw and I'm just like, I'm not liking this.
Yeah. By the way, when I saw Cristiano Ronaldo pull up, I wrote into my Instagram group with my friends, what is he now going to do? Press the big button to run the Python program? And yes.
I mean, I can't remember who it was it was Karamba and Mikhail Zevkov, the Conference League draw.
I didn't watch the rest of the
show. Obviously, it does give them the game, but it was just like, Ronaldo ain't turning up for that.
Yeah.
But I like the setup with just a big Champions League ball button. It was very 90s game show.
Yeah, it was. I just like that Ronaldo came in just to press a big fat button loads of times.
Yeah. And did you like the I hesitate to say comedy, but the sketch explaining
I liked
things.
it. I liked it.
I liked it as well.
Yeah.
I think there were a few people who were like, "Oh my god, it's so cringe," and I think there's a lot of people who don't like Sheffield in general.
Yeah.
And they would tend to look at that and like, "Oh my god, what an ego on that guy." Like, it's just nice to see UEFA kind of take the piss out of themselves.
Yeah,
to be quite
literally.
honest.
I mean, to literally bring up the Super League, I'm like, okay, fair enough, fair play.
Yeah. So I think the one thing that I do like about this new format is purely that we are in at the start of September, and we can confidently say for all three tournaments who is going to be in the knockout stages and sort of who we think might win going forward. Obviously not Dinamo in this instance, but yeah, I think that's a real.
Listen, this is a Creative Football podcast. You gotta be somewhat of an optimist. We gotta give the people hope.
I'm a person who's watched Celtic for like 30 years in a way European games, so I know we probably ain't winning that. We don't win those games. If it's half as good as it was 2014, the last time we had Dinamo Celtic, I think it was 4-3.
In the Europa
Piazza hat trick. Maximian. I have always.
Yeah, I rattled some Celtic fans because I posted under Celtics when they posted their league phase draw. I posted a picture of Piazza and just said "Hello, boys," and some people just immediately went into me.
I mean, generally, I would say most people find it just best not to dip their toes into the cesspit that is Scottish football Twitter. Because really I mean, and I say this, obviously I tend to habitate, Croatian Twitter, Serbian Twitter, Bosnian Twitter, and all this and the other. Like seriously, Balkan Twitter, Scottish football Twitter is more feisty than Balkan Twitter, particularly if it's anything to do with two particular clubs who know who they are. Yeah.
My guess is Hearts and Motherwell.
It could be Hearts or Hibs, to be fair. Hearts fans are pretty feisty, to be fair. They do like a good boo. I'll give them that.
Yeah. Should we also talk a little bit about the game?
The
game itself.
They won. That's all that really mattered.
Yeah, they did. But I mean,
they won.
Felmi
Sayac has now a nice little pool of money he can jump into, Scrooge McDuck style.
Yeah. Dinamo has confirmed now that they have at least from the Champions League 44 million euros. Which,
and I mean, I think on top of that, because I think, if they hadn't gone to Champions League, maybe they sell Baturna this window and they get 25 million. Let's say just
20 to 25, probably.
Yeah. Well, I think it was 25 they were asking for. Fiorentina topped off at 18 plus a couple of.
I think it rounded up to like 20.
Yeah. If he has not even 8 good games in the Champions League, if he has 4 good games in the Champions League, then
that's skyrocketed.
You put in an extra 5 or 10 million on his.
That's what we thought. That's what we talked about last podcast. If he just has a good campaign, that does way much than selling him before you get into the Champions League.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which they've done.
So yeah, it's 34 million to start with, but the potential profits. I mean, it's so reductive to talk about football in that sense, isn't it? But it'll pay for the new Maximir.
Yeah, it will. The Kranjčevića is slowly. It should be the renovations at the Kranjčevića should start in 3 months.
And that's 26 that's ready.
Actually 4, 2026. I think, and then Lokomotiva will probably move either to Maksimir or to Rudeš. those are the only two possibilities for them after that.
Yeah, and I mean, there's been. I assume that's probably going to be one of talk about just the general stadium stuff that they are actually doing things and that seem to. Obviously for Konchevich, it's already in there. There's funding that's available for a camp in Velika Gorica as well. Maybe they could put a pitch in there. I don't know.
I mean, judging by our European results, we need loads of more training grounds and pitches, please.
Yeah, but I think it's nice to see there actually being movement on this sort of thing. It's been 6 years. I mean, more than 6 years. Let's be quite honest.
It's been all talk.
Maximir, but since Russia 2018, when I think things really started to ramp up in terms of public pressure on like we should do something here, guys. It's taken 6 years to actually get to the point of putting a spade in the ground.
Yeah.
Now, okay, there's been a pandemic in the middle of that, and it's not like Osijek's experience of stadium building was particularly good. But it's desperately needed.
Yeah, we desperately needed. I mean, it's not gonna be nice to see the Champions League football, and then you see the other end of Maximir completely empty.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, I think if you're a Celtic fan watching listening to get a gauge of Dinamo, it's not going to be a very enjoyable time to go there just to a Champions League game in December.
No,
in the middle of December.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Speaking of that, let's show the exact fixtures how they're going to be played.
Yeah. Or January for whoever that one is.
Yeah. So the first game is away at Bayern. Right after the Eternal Derby to kick off the Champions League campaign. Then you're at home against Monaco. Then away to Salzburg and Slaven, where you need at least, I think, 4 points to really to get off the ground. Those are your first real opportunities at points, unless you can do something against Monaco at home. Dortmund at home, Celtic at home, Arsenal away, and Milan at home as the last game.
Yeah.
Yeah, Champions League football in January.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a great fan of that from the perspective. It's maybe not so much the issue for Dinamo as it is for your friends to the south in terms of they're actually, these games, 10th of December for Celtic, 29th of January for Milan, that is actually, the HNL generally is still going on then anyway in a normal year.
I think it's going to start in between the two games.
Yeah. So we're actually not in the winter break, but I know for Svesta, they are actually playing games in Belgrade during their winter break. That seems like something UEFA should have thought of because snow exists.
Yeah, but Dinamo's first game after the preparations is going to be at Arsenal away, which not great.
No, but I mean at the same time it tends to go two ways. One is, like I say, not great. The might not be sharp, but on the other hand, we know what the English schedule is like. December and January is generally absolutely brutal. So you might be getting a very tired Arsenal side. You might be getting a second string Arsenal side if they're already confirmed top 8. But I mean, even a second string Arsenal side is going to be a very good Arsenal side.
Yeah. I mean, I somewhat like the draw. I like that Milan and Monaco and Dortmund are going to be at the Maximir, which are teams we haven't seen yet at the Maximir. Actually, we saw Milan last time when they were in the Champions League, but we haven't seen Dortmund, and that's last year's Champions League finalist. So if you can get something, pretty happy with that.
Yeah. I think a realistic return for them is probably 5 points from this.
I think like 6, 7, but that's realistic. So if you gotta overachieve a little bit, if you want to get into the top 24.
Exactly, they're getting 24 points.
They're getting the max.
They're getting the max. Yeah, to the moon.
Yeah. To the moon. What else do we have to talk about? Where
Should do transfer business.
Shall we do transfer business?
Yeah, because I've got transfer marked up. So,
all right, should we start with Osijek because they have brought a few players in.
They've sent. So we've got Lovrich no longer at Osijek. He's at Ahmetspor in Turkey, alongside a bunch of Peterborough players. Christian Fuchs is now in Hungary.
Yeah, Alonso Zete, who also played last season.
Yeah. We mentioned last week Franjo Kolic. He has joined Mura. Then incoming Arnold Jukupovic from Maribor.
Good signing.
1 million.
I mean, I liked them against Hajduk this week. I mean, I was at the game, and he was okay. Considering that he had played 2 days before.
Yeah. I like Jukupovic. I think the problem with Jukupovic at Osijek is that where Vušković likes to do his best work is coming in off the right. Yeah. Well, I kind of think you're kind of going to be getting in the way of people that are already at the club there.
Vušković likes to go.
Yeah. So I think there's going to be a bit of a bedding in period in terms of how he fits into that system. Because like you say, I think he's going to want to run from channels that Vušković is going to want to run from as well. He's not really a central... even though he's a nice tall player and can play centrally, you're not getting the best out of him if you're not allowing him to have sort of that free role to run from the right and do that stuff that Vušković normally does. He's certainly not a Mieres in that regard in terms of how he occupies defenders.
It's tough to get a not even a close, but somewhat of a replication of Mieres.
Yeah,
he's a special kind of striker.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm the jury's out on that one.
Hernani.
Then we've also Hernani from Al Naima, 33-year-old.
A second-tier side in Saudi Arabia.
Yes. So
if you thought if you thought the first tier of Saudi Arabia was shit, what do you think about the second tier, ladies and gentlemen?
Probably also not good.
Probably even worse.
Yeah. We got Thiago Dantas from Benfica, which is a free, but it's one of those frees where we actually wanted to run. So you've got him for free, but if you do sell him on, we're getting 50% of it.
We're getting 50%.
The deal with that. And Alessandro Tuya from Cremonese.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's them, isn't it?
and I think soon to be if Osijek don't rescind the loan of Čavlina after his comments today, I'll be surprised largely.
Yeah, he was quite very honest. Let's be fair.
Very honest. You know what? Let's quickly recap what happened on Saturday. So I'm at the game. I'm in Split. I'm at the game. I see the lineups come out, and I'm like, Malensa in his goal. Malensa's in the goal. Shit. Because when I saw Malensa, I'm like, Kapiteli has come to his senses. And Čavlina was dropped to the bench. And he today, after Osijek lost that game 1-0, Malensa made some absolutely fantastic saves, and the game was brilliant. And again, popped up the question I've been asking myself ever since Čavlina came in: why did you bring him? You already had two good goalies, and now Kolic has left the club, even though he's shown he's a good backup. But And Čavlina today, I mean, he didn't have any pleasant words, did he?
No. I think I will be fair to Čavlina here. I think we said this about Ivan Banic last year. In terms of sort of, you get these types of goalkeepers who they need to be busy to be good.
Yeah.
And I think what we're seeing is that what we've seen at Osijek is that Čavlina needs to be busy to be good. And for all that Dinamo sent him to Osijek to try and learn, presumably to learn the skill of, maybe having to wait 30, 40 minutes before you're seeing actual shot you have to say, and sort of having that very different mental challenge of keeping yourself sharp as opposed to always being sharp. He's obviously not adapted.
It's not working out, yeah.
To that, no. And he doesn't like it.
Yeah, he especially doesn't like the Italian goalkeeping coach at Osijek.
No.
Yeah, because he said he's completely wanted to change him. So everything he's been taught, he learned in the last 13 years of his footballing career, he just has to throw out the window, which he obviously doesn't like.
Yep.
But yeah, and he also blamed his teammates for goals he's conceded from his mistakes, which
it's not going to win you any friends. I mean, we'll just say straight off, for the goalkeeping coach, so it's Gianfranco Randazzo at Osijek. So he is, prior to being at Osijek, was the goalkeeping coach of Ivan Juric at Torino and had always been in the Torino setup. So, he's worked with top goalkeepers there. I think it's fair to say last season, Vanya was his best season to date.
Yeah, so very, very, very good goalie.
As a goalkeeping coach, presumably he's a guy you should be listening to. Now, obviously, Čavlina doesn't want to. I think the thing around no teammates, I don't know necessarily whether that's from how well knitted together, sort of the changing room dynamics of Osijek, or whether it's just, is my teammates were getting in the way, because obviously we mentioned the previous mistake he'd made from the corner where he was completely unsighted and he can kind of it goes down as a mistake, but you can kind of excuse it a little bit.
Yeah, you can excuse it.
Yeah, but it's not what Osijek need at the moment.
No, but it's also not a great way. So when I woke up and I see he did an interview, and as soon as I see the first few lines from him, which is but since I joined the national team, the under-21s from Osijek, now I feel good.
Yeah.
Which, basically implying I feel like shit when I'm at Osijek, lads. Thank you for inviting me. Thank you for calling me up to be here. Otherwise, I probably would have gotten the nod and, did something.
Yeah. Which, again, probably doesn't ingratiate yourselves with the under-21 either.
No, it doesn't. But, I mean, if this hasn't put him on the bench or just completely destroyed his loan, I don't know. I really don't think Copatelli is the man to, see that kind of thing and be like, yeah, you know what, you'll play again.
Well, yeah, I mean, more than anything, for a new manager, this has got to be the line in the sand where you're drawing, you're saying, okay, actually, how am I in terms of discipline? Am I going to let him get away with this? Or am I just going to say, right, you can just sit on the bench with Maximir if you want.
Maybe Čavlina is hoping that he gets sacked before he comes back.
I don't think that's happened. I don't think there's any intent there.
I don't think Boto would do it because the whole thing has been done together with him and Copitelli. So
exactly. So yeah. So Osijek down. Let's see who we do next. Dinamo. Because
Nathaniel and
Buko. Yes, who's coming from Augsburg. I don't know anything about him. You?
Yeah, neither do I. I do not religiously follow the Bundesliga. I religiously follow the HNL. I apologize.
But that's it's a fact. I mean, obviously for them, there's been a couple of goes. Vabancic is on loan at Lokomotiva now, and a couple of random loanies. But I mean, for them, obviously, the transfer deadline itself isn't short, but it's probably worth explaining that the UEFA registration deadline for Champions League is short, so they aren't going to be bringing anyone else in. Any transfer
for the Champions League,
would be anything else would be out.
It's over.
Yeah,
it's over.
It's over. So let's go. Hajduk. And Stipe Biuk's back.
Yeah, Stipe Biuk's back, and
Tomáš isn't.
Yeah, and Jan Mlakar also isn't. Oh God. I mean, okay. So first off, let me get this off my chest. When I saw that Tomáš Bašić was coming back, at first I was like, yeah, I love Bašić. He was one of my favorite players when he was at the club. Very good set piece taker. Absolutely loved him scoring the free kicks, especially the one against Zibalia in 2017, I think. He was just a very good player. But even if we did bring him in, because the whole thing started after the transfer window shut. Well, it mostly started when the transfer window shut in Europe, which then we knew that Pukstas is staying. So what are you trying to do with Rakitic, Pukstas, Krovinovic, Sigur, and Jumper when he comes back?
Don't know.
Yeah,
Fortunately, you've not got that problem.
Yeah, I mean, we have the problem of money that we can't even pay. We can only afford to pay like what 20% of his salary, which is 1.3 or 1.4 million.
Yeah, I think it was said that you'd offered 400k and
Yeah.
they wanted the full whack. It was,
Yeah,
like
they wanted the
1.3
full
million
whack,
or something.
Which we do not have the money for.
Yeah.
And I mean, even if we did have that kind of money, are we really gonna spend it on one low knee who's gonna come in an already full position?
Yeah, exactly. It was a bit of a weird one. Like you say, it's not. I mean, it is a position in which you're short at the.
No, Richard has gotten stuck. I can finish. I can finish this sentence. Short at the moment because we have a little bit of injuries. But yeah, you know what? I'll continue on. Since he's gone for now, hopefully he comes. I saw him lagging, but I was hoping it's only temporary. I mean, this is not looking good, lads. I'm going to be honest, but yeah, Tomáš Bašić. I mean, I'll talk about Stipe Biuk. Stipe Biuk has been brought in on a 1-year loan. He's come back to Hajduk from Valladolid. Hajduk has the money to pay some of his wages, not the complete, and Biuk has had to drop some of his wage to come to Hajduk, which, fair play to him. He just wants to play because he wouldn't get any playing time for Valladolid now that they're on full screen now. Great. Because they're now in the La Liga. And he was like third choice left winger, which not great. But he's a player you need. Hajduk need a left winger. And here's Richard.
Yeah. That was literally, I went to try and find, because there's someone you can link to since Bašić.
Your microphone again.
Oh.
Yeah.
I was trying to find out who you've been linked to since Bašić, and
nobody.
Was someone I'm sure I've seen something about 1.5 million.
Can you just check your microphone again, because it is.
What's that?
Yeah.
It's definitely connected to the right microphone.
Yeah, it is. But you have some.
Let me just.
I think it's good. Yeah, it's good now. It's good. It's good.
Yeah, I don't know why it's doing
technical difficulties, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, we need a little test card.
I continue talking on about Stipe Biuk.
I mean, to us, I heard it all. It's very good. Yeah, I think for Biuk, that's an issue. How just in terms of not having anyone in wide areas.
Yeah, we had, especially on the left side, so we needed to bring somebody in, and Biuk, had to drop some of his wages, so he did, and has come back to the club. But the problem I have with Biuk is he's not really prolific, is he?
No.
Yeah.
Which is why he's back in Europe.
Yeah, and back at Hajduk.
Yeah.
But I hope this is going to be a good season for him, where he needs to step up. He's going to be a left winger, and he's our only left winger, so he needs to step up.
Yeah, I think I suppose the question would be, for yourself as a Hajduk fan, would you rather be sat here with the personnel you have now in wide areas in terms of having Biuk there, or would you rather just don't have Biuk but still have Sahiti?
I would rather have Biuk. Just Biuk. We got some money for Sahiti. We got some money for Sahiti, and it opens up for Durdov. You open up space for Duro by selling Sakiti, and Duro was amazing against Osijek.
Yeah, agreed. So, Slaven Belupo.
Nesterovski?
Yes. Obviously mentioned Dojic and Gigic coming in last week, but Nesterovski.
I mean, they also made we should mention the managerial change. Radaric has been sacked, and Mario Kovacevic is the new Slaven manager, which, great. I absolutely love to see him back. I hated that. Šafrić has done a great job with Varaždin. We'll get to that. We'll get to Varaždin, who have been impeccable so far. But I was sad to see, after the whole thing that Kovacevic lost his job with Varaždin because he had to step back because of was it lung cancer?
Yeah,
lung cancer.
I think it was 3 people who were linked to it. It was, let's say, Rojman, who decided against it. He said he's got offers elsewhere, and Toplak, who is now managing Rudez,
who have started in the second tier so bad. They've lost 3 out of 3 games, and the last game they lost was to Opatija, where Opatija had a red card, but I forgot who, but an Opatija midfielder decided to, just what, from the halfway line, have it.
Was it Ivo Weitzer? Because it's usually Ivo Weitzer whenever it's anything ridiculous at Opatija.
I don't know. Let me check again. But they lost the game, but they had one more. Yeah, it's Weitzer, of course it is. Yeah. So Rudez is not doing great.
No. So you bring in Croatian Big Sam.
Yeah, that's how I'm sad that we're not gonna see Toplak on TV anymore, because he's a charismatic manager who's great on TV, especially in interviews. So that's a loss, but hopefully he can bring Rudez back on the road.
Yeah. Otherwise, in terms of incomings, I think there's Lokomotiva. I haven't mentioned Bancic.
They brought in Marko Pajac from Genoa.
Yes, that's who they brought in today. Yeah. And
they also brought in Duerage, the youngster from Hajduk's under 19 squad that went to the Final Four.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's. They're all very Lokomotiva deals, aren't they?
Yeah.
I think, if we're honest.
Also, look, we'll speak about it when we get to the games.
Yeah. Otherwise, Rijeka, Franny Ivanovic has gone to IOSG. So hinted very strongly at last week. And Gorica have sold Munksgaard to Banik Ostrava.
Yeah.
Not sold him, just sent him away.
To stay on the Rijeka team, they are bringing in. They today announced Stipe Perica.
Yep.
They're gonna bring in Dominic Dogan.
Your favorite?
We did our job last podcast. They're probably gonna bring in Luka Manolo from Dinamo.
Yes. Yeah.
Manolo had a falling out at Celje. Got absolutely ridiculed in front of everybody.
Yes.
He was probably like, "Are you done now? Can I just leave? I want to go back where I'm loved, where I'm appreciated, please."
Yeah, it's for some reason Albert now he's come back to Celje, has just decided to be a very, very angry man. I obviously watched all the post-match stuff, and he's just like, all right, have you been divorced between yourself and Slovenia, man? Because you are very different.
Completely different. He did a 180. I think the Bordeaux collapse absolutely did something to him.
Exactly, yeah. Although we should say, on Bordeaux, their new manager. I don't know if
new manager?
Yes.
Well, the new coach. New
coach. Yeah.
Yeah. One of the new coaches, Dado Purshu.
Yes.
The legend, the man, the myth.
Yeah. I thought that was interesting is they're back. So he's assistant manager. I don't know who's running them, to be honest, but now they're back in the 4th tier and the goalkeepers are scoring.
Yeah, their goalkeeper scored in the last minute to give them their first win, which brilliant.
Yeah.
But back on track, Rijeka,
Yes.
bringing in Dogan, Perica, Manolo, Victor Lind, who we obviously don't know.
That was who was finding is Victor Lind. There's a potential that he's actually going to Hajduk.
To Hajduk?
Yes.
Excuse me.
Yeah. So
we don't have the money, honestly.
that was what I was thinking with the Sebastian. I was trying to remember the name that scene because it's a transfer fee involved. I think it's 1.5 million. I want to say 1.5 million. And I'm like, well, if you can't afford the wages for Bassett, why are you getting 1.5 million for Lind? But apparently that's a thing because it's deadline day and you've got to create drama. So it possibly is just media stuff. He just goes to join.
Yeah, but
he's going full Odin wingy.
Yeah, but he's a right winger, which I mean, I would rather see Durdov play there. And he also, I mean, who else do we have? I mean, Dayako's back, but not really in shape. Not really in shape. We'll get to the games, I promise, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
They're also bringing in Goyak. I'm going to Goyak.
Yeah. I mean,
hasn't had a great spell when he left Dinamo, but now he's back.
I've already mentioned his name once in this episode.
Yeah.
He's just
enough? Just once.
Well, I mean, for me, I think he's a good player. It's just every single big game I've ever watched him in,
just shit.
He costs the team the game.
Yeah, we don't need to talk about the Benfica games.
No.
Well, especially the second leg. But yeah. Who else do we need? Aleksa Latkovic. He's joining Varaždin from Rudeš.
Yes, and they brought in Enes Alic as well.
Yeah, Enes Alic too. Yeah. Varaždin has, done good business. Strengthened their squad, kept the core, and they're doing good.
Yeah, I think with Varaždin, and maybe this is the point we move it into the games now.
Yeah. Let me just check shortly. Roko Šimić has moved to Cardiff and then immediately on loan to
Kortrijk. Yeah. Having been stolen from Sunderland as well. And they spent that money on bringing in Alexic from Kogujevac, which is interesting. But so for Varaždin, as mentioned, they've kept the band together pretty much, and I think that's for them that's probably as close as you can get to a successful window, really. From their perspective, they've added a couple of bits and bobs, but it was, as we mentioned last week, Sego could definitely do a job at a bigger club now.
Yeah, and especially after the performance against Lokomotiva.
Yeah, absolutely excellent against Lokomotiva. Same with Mitrowski. Again, he's clearly.
I mean, his finishing needs a little bit of work, just slightly off. Literally just hit the post 2 times, slightly off.
Yeah, I mean, he's again, another one ready for a step up. It's a really good core.
Yeah,
they got there, and I feel like Varaždin aren't a side we talk about too much because they're in the mid-table, and there is mid-table and mid-table as you get.
Yeah, and they've kept the most clean sheets so far in the league. They've kept 4 clean sheets out of 5 games.
Yeah, but this is, I think they're set for their best season since coming back in to the HNL. If they can just, there's a couple of things that they need to tighten up on. Firstly, let's get Dabra scoring.
Yeah, Dabra just needs a goal. He's come so close every game, and he just needs it. Because he needs to get firing.
And if they get him to be that sort of 15-goal striker that we know he can be, then there's not really much in the way of weaknesses in that squad. Very, very solid at the back as you mentioned. The
midfield also they've lost Lusevets and they're doing great.
Yeah, you say, it is a good, very good midfield. And you've got those sort of individual attacking talents in Zego, in hopefully Dabro, in Mitrowski, who are doing the business at the minute. And let's be honest, against the Lokomotiva, they were vastly the better side.
Yeah, so much.
2.54 XG to 0.36, which, considering they only won 1-0.
Yeah, I mean, that's plainly to Mitrovsky just hitting the post.
Yeah, pretty much.
And Šubarić making some good saves, but
yeah, they were. I mean, I'd say they were just miles better than Lokomotiva.
Yeah.
Lokomotiva had work to do from it.
Yeah, and I mean, I gotta talk about Szego. 8 key passes. 8.
Mm-hmm.
8. How?
And this, I mean, I think he's always had that sort of potential. And even last season, it wasn't quite fully together. We'd see him very good in some games. We'd see him be pretty anonymous in others. So far this season, he's keyed it in every game.
Yeah, every game.
And he won't be hanging around at Varaždin too long if he's doing that for the rest of the autumn.
Yeah, easily beats his opponents. I mean, just creates big chances, almost scored, hit the post, actually the crossbar.
And I think one of the great things about him is, it is the directness of his running, but also he just seems to invite challenges.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily beating a man, but, making them make a decision to go to ground. That means that if you do beat him, then you've got yourself a couple of yards of space and a bit more thinking time. And if you don't beat him, well, he's probably just conceded a foul.
Yeah. I mean, just brilliant. And Lokomotiva, on the other hand, had a average age in their starting lineup of 28.2, which not very Lokomotiva now, lads.
No. I mean, a lot of that obviously was brought up by a couple of players, I think, let's be fair.
I mean, Anton is calling it immediately and do a job.
And Leovac as well, yeah.
And Leovac.
So, yeah. Be less old.
Yeah. But I really do think this is just Lokomotiva getting the veterans out now. So, get some points on the board, then slowly, phase the old players out and start getting the younger ones in. But it's not working. I mean, if you're gonna play like this every week, like you did against Varaždin, I think it's time to get the young guns in.
Yeah, I think the fact that they're bringing Vrbancic is a very positive step in that direction. Everything we've seen of him at Dinamo so far, and it's pretty much been sub appearances. He's looked very, very good. And possibly there from a quality perspective, is that replacing Osijek? Possibly.
Yeah.
You obviously mentioned the chap brought in from Hajduk as well. That's again a very Lokomotiva signing, and it'd be a very Hajduk thing for him just to go to another HNL club and immediately start looking very good.
Yeah. It would be. I mean, Varaždin is just very good. They're gonna keep this side. Nobody's gonna buy their players off of them until probably the winter for now.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, they've brought in Ante Čorić as well. I think we mentioned that last podcast. It hasn't been made official yet, but he is at the club.
Mm-hmm.
But considering our clubs, how slow they are with the news, I mean, today I saw yesterday I saw Supersport HNL, the official Twitter account, yesterday post about Radonjić has been sacked by Slaven Belupa, like 2 hours after they announced Kovačević as the new manager.
Well, they were right.
Well, yeah, but guys, just, can you at least pick the right day? At least pick the right day, because he was sacked the day before. But I mean. But Slaven was also very slow on that, because Radonjić got sacked before that. But I mean, it's just our clubs and being slow with the news. But should we now go back onto Friday from Sunday?
Yes. Yeah. Gorica Šibenik.
Yeah. Božidar Radošević and Dokit. The two standouts for me.
Yeah, which again, not a surprise that, and Dokit in particular, is what Gorica have been waiting on.
Yeah, I mean, we mentioned that obviously when we were talking about Gorica in the last few podcasts, that when Endokit was injured, that Gorica looked completely different. Probably deserved to get relegated if Ruders wasn't that poor. And now Endokit is back, and I mean, that was just one of his great games. And Radošević with 2 extra magnificent saves in the first 10 minutes.
Yeah, I think it's certainly not Šibenik lost, and we've spent most of the time so far this season being very positive about them. This isn't something that really reflects poorly on them.
They weren't bad.
Yeah, they absolutely could have won that game.
Yeah, if Božić scores that 1-1 in the 5th minute,
it's
completely different ball game.
Yeah, exactly, and they'll absolutely come again. For Gorica, it's points that they needed. We've been very consistent in who we think will be the bottom 2 this year, of which Gorica were one of them, and now that takes them 4 points clear of Slaven.
Yeah.
So that's about as much as you can ask for, really, from that perspective. At the end of the day, if you're a side that's going to be in trouble, you want to be the one setting the pace, not in a position where you have to win games and you put pressure on. Some clubs thrive under that. I would much rather just chill in the spring, to be honest.
Yeah, I think all the clubs agree with you on that. Mikanovic, I mean, fantastic. Now that he's not a Hajduk, that he's at the club where there's not that much pressure on him. He can just be a very good player at the club, and he's doing phenomenally for now.
Yeah,
I mean, very nice finish.
Yeah, and it's the performance that they needed. Realistically, and I mean, you can sort of eat quite easy because obviously the next game we talk about sort of compare them to Slaven and their performance against Istra, and for Slaven, it seemed to be that they were very poor. Then they went behind. Then they actually kind of settled in. Only once they were behind. Then they get that goal disallowed, and then they went to pot again. Whereas Gorica, it was more 90 minutes performance. Yes, they had a rough first 10, 12 minutes in terms of the chances they were giving up. But then from then on, they were in their rhythm and comfortable. So, the period of being comfortable wasn't as long. And ultimately, they didn't score. And
I mean, they did, but
yes. I think I've said it before. VAR, we should have an exclusion where if the goal is really
that's some timing. He was gonna say if the goal is really good, and I think when it's especially from Tomislav Božić, one of the HNL standout players and the captain of Slaven Belupo at 36 years old, and he does that. You cannot take it away from him. You cannot take away that kind of goal from Tomislav Božić. Christmas is ruined, okay? Božić is no more. We shall have no Božić Christmas until the end of time because they canceled this. Never again. Hopefully he's going to come back soon. But to speak on that Istra game, Istra are very good. They obviously had some lapses of concentration. Slaven stepped up sometime, and Richard is back again.
I was going to say the words aesthetically pleasing. If the goal's particularly aesthetically pleasing, they just let it go. I mean,
and especially if it's Tomislav Božić, who is 36, the captain of Slaven Belupo, been at the HNL for years. Do not do that.
Down.
Yeah, it's so good. It just is. do not.
But to be fair, it was offside.
Yeah, Nestowski was off, but still. I mean, yeah. But I also mentioned how Istra is very good. Heister and Kadušić are doing their jobs phenomenally on the flanks.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's one error from him that created a chance for Slaven.
Yeah, for
in the
Slaven.
first half, but I mean, obviously they're looking really at using him from an attacking sense, and he's absolutely delivering in that regard. I think possibly what was different from the Istra that we've seen prior to this game and what we saw in this game was, Istra were very much controlling the game, and we got to see what Istra look like when they're really being able to dictate the game to their opponents rather than necessarily breaking and being all about the pace. And certainly we saw them in more normal a game state, a more normal Istra. Then I think we really have, because obviously they've had Dinamo, they've had Hajduk already this season. It's been a very difficult start for them, but I think with Gagwa there as a focal point at times, it allows the ball to stick up top. So they're not such a one-dimensional side based on pace and needing that shock factor.
Yeah, Tramezzani once again started Vuk and Listza as the two strikers, which no. Just no. Shortly, the answer is no. Like, you have Filet, you have Gagwa on the bench, you have Jaganjac on the bench as well. So stop playing games, please.
Yeah.
Don't be doing. We've talked about this last season with Zekic numerous times. Just play the players.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I can sort of understand why you would do that rotation because you're coming off games which are based on basically breaking, and obviously for those players who were benched, they're more ideal for that. But I think also if Istra to do well, you've got to develop them into being your guys for all occasions rather than just being specifically one. We need to play on the counter.
Yeah. The only goal was scored by Mario Čujić. Kadušić, perfect ball across the box. Nobody got to it, and Čujić just tapped it in.
Yeah. And I think from a Slaven perspective, rough.
Yeah, they just needed to. I don't think if Radley stayed as the manager, I don't think he could get anything out of the squad, anything more.
No,
so I think Kovacic is the perfect guy to get something out of the squad because it has quality, it has the names.
Yeah, I mean, you need the likes of Goric to get back into sharpness. Obviously he was his straight pass that set up the move. Yeah, and Dolček as well, and whatever transfer business they do between here and the end of the window, that needs to work. It needs to work pretty fast because Istra will be absolutely fine, but Šibenik have already pulled away from you, and you would expect Šibenik to be around there. Gorica, now the 4 points clear. You're not going to be relying on Osijek being terrible all season. To try and
maybe Lokomotiva.
Maybe Lokomotiva, but again, you wouldn't want to bet on that. So you need to start getting results pretty quickly. And I think that the problem is that they don't really have much up front. Obviously, that's not Shakalia. He was sneaky, very good last season. And Muric is still not doing the business. And they need him to do the business because if you've not got that top striker, you need to have someone in a wide area, in an attacking midfield area, to be able to do something a bit different and have a bit of individual quality to drag you into contention. But he isn't.
Butic was okay in this match from what I saw. I missed most of it because obviously I was in split, but I did try to catch as much as possible. Nestorovski, I cannot speak for him. I don't think he did anything of note.
No, not really.
Except being offside.
Yeah, Butic had a couple of good touches in and around the area, but I mean, again, I think that Slaven's chances were all really half chances. There wasn't anything glaring that they missed or anything like that.
Yeah, and I mean, it speaks volumes when you make 4 substitutions at halftime.
Yeah,
and then
you got it wrong.
And then Lešković gets injured, so you have no substitutions for the rest of the match in the 50s and the 57, 56 minute.
Yeah,
not great. It's not great at Slaven, but hopefully Mario Kovacic can do something and help them up.
Yeah.
Should we get to the Hajduk Osijek match, which we somehow already talked over some key points?
We touched on a bit. I think it's going to echo really what we said last week. Against Rijeka, that was Osijek's worst performance of the season so far. Against Hajduk, it was Osijek's worst performance of the season so far.
Yeah, it was so bad. In every other game, they had something going for them. In this game, absolutely nothing. Yeah. They didn't show anything.
But at least the keeper didn't chuck anything in.
I mean, yeah, Malenica was phenomenal. If Malenica was if Čavlina wasn't in between the sticks, I think Hajduk scores 2 free goals.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, I don't know how widely spread it's been, but I mean, the reaction save on basically scooping it back from the line. That's
brilliant.
Yeah. That's all you can say, really.
Yeah, from my point of view, I was like, oh, that's a goal. Oh, no, it isn't. Okay.
No.
I was waiting for VAR because I thought it was just on the line. I thought maybe VAR was going to look at it and, shows that it was over the line, but no.
It is one of those. It's a weird angle because he's also reaching behind himself and almost behind his own head to stop it. I mean, you don't see that very often.
Yeah, the first half wasn't that great. All you had was the Durdov chance when he got past Jurisic, and then Rakitic's free kick, which was so close.
Yeah, but I mean, again, it's sort of been the story of Hajduk so far. Is not playing great, but winning.
But Levaya does it. Gets the job done.
Well, we've seen that for a few seasons, haven't we?
Well, yeah, but I mean, Hajduk is yet to score a goal without Levaya having anything to do with it. He has 4 goals, 3 assists, and Hajduk has scored 7 goals. And for those that are bad at math, like me, 4 plus 3 is 7.
Call him up, Talic. No.
That would cause a lot of talk. But I mean, I already mentioned Durdov was amazing. Kalik, I mean, not great. I mean, he does his job. What you're asking? Yeah, he does his job of running, but I mean, anytime he gets on the ball, he just provides nothing. But I mean,
that's the role he's being asked to do. I think with
and that's why we brought Biukin, so we can actually have an actual winger. But what I wanted to mention was Osijek's first shot on target was Hernani in the 90th minute.
Yeah, which again says it all, really.
Yeah.
What they need is 2 weeks off with the team together and just on the training pitch, and they've got it. I mean, I don't, like you sort of indicated earlier, I don't feel like Copatelli's under pressure because this is a project. And
it's a project, but at the same time, you had a tough opening. The tough opening 5 games. You had Dinamo, Rijeka, and Hajduk. So not easy. So you can apologize that the Šibenik loss you dominated. Čavlina just was Čavlina. But now you have Slaven at home, which you have to win.
Yeah, I mean, Copatelli realistically has 2 games to be getting a result. Otherwise, at that point, if you're Jose Waco, you're thinking, right, okay, I probably need to do something to get this season going now. Because for whatever reason, it isn't working. And this was the first time we watched Osijek in a league game and thought, oh, this isn't working.
No, I mean, I was watching from the stands. I was like, Osijek hasn't done anything except Malenza. Malenza was the only one that was standing out to me because, I mean, just phenomenal.
He
But,
obviously likes the goalkeeping coach.
Yeah, he obviously loves him. Should we talk about the first goal? There was a VAR review for Prpic jumping on. Was it? I think it was Jakubovic, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and slightly. I mean, slightly. Still getting his elbow on his neck / head in that area, and winning the header. Foul or no?
No, but it's always given.
Yeah, it's always given. And the first thing that it reminded me when I watched the highlights was Bruno Goda against Dinamo last season.
Yeah.
Pretty much the same thing.
Yeah. It's a levels of contact thing, isn't it? But
yeah,
you very rarely see the benefit of the doubt given there.
Yeah. When I was at the stadium, I obviously didn't see that. So I was like, what are you looking at VAR for? But afterwards, when I saw the highlights, I was like, "Ooh, we might have gotten away with one there."
Yeah.
And the Pukstas offside. Well, Pukstas wasn't offside. It was Prpic. Yeah, Prpic was offside. Who then went for the ball, and they say he had a part to play in it.
Which is the same as obviously in the Slaven Lupo game as well.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
And I mean, in a way, we've sort of seen inconsistencies at the end of last season, not necessarily in the HNL, but just worldwide, in terms of the interpretation of players standing around goalkeepers, and sort of being, as the old offside interpretation would be, that sort of difference between active and passive involvement in a move.
Yeah.
And it seems like we've gone from last season, basically everything's passive, it seemed, to this season, we're going back the way. So, it's probably pre-season directive to the referees, which is we want to be looking at this and we want to be a bit more involved in this sort of decision than we were. It probably was a goal last season.
Yeah, I mean, I understand all this. I understand all the decisions, but Skomina, I mean, we talked a lot about Skomina since he's come in. He about the Prpic foul. He said if the referee is not seeing that live during the match, there's no need for VAR to bring it back. He needs to see that. It's not a clear and obvious mistake. If he's, I mean, there's nothing else to look at that moment.
No,
except that earlier battle between Jakubovic and Prpic. So if he doesn't call it immediately, there's no need for him to go back to the monitor. Which I agree with. If you don't see it immediately and see him, just planting his hand on his neck,
But that's, I mean, that's not wrong. But at the same time, this is just a general VAR gripe around the world. Referees do tend to hold off making decisions because they know they've got a safety net.
Yeah, true. I mean, what else to mention except that Osijek was bad.
Yeah.
I mean, I mentioned Dayaku. Dayaku just was all out of sorts immediately. Like after one full run, after one sprint, just gone. Gone. Ben Rao, I liked some of his combinations he did, and when he came on for not even 10 minutes, immediately just got back into combining with the players, starting some passing sequences, which I mean I missed that from him.
Yeah, well, that's what he was always doing. In most occasions, it was his defensive or work rate possibly that was the issue.
I mean, his strength was the issue. I don't think he's always running, but his strength is the issue. And I mean, defensive IQ as well. But I mean, not a surprise.
Yeah. Well, which leaves us with Dinamo Rijeka.
Yeah, we went over Lokomotiva.
If we want to talk about, yes, we did mention Varaždin, didn't we? If we want to talk about controversial refereeing decisions.
Oh boy.
Oh boy. Go on. What do you think about Cordoba?
Okay, I mean, first of all, we also have Jankovic on the rogue as well. That's stopping. That's something. We have Andrić Teofil as well. So, first of all, I just want to send a message to Duestrukan. Get your fucking act together, please. Because after that game in Poland, again, who was it? Like, who was it?
Glikic,
yeah,
and Sangallen, something like
that. Yeah, Sangallen and
Piast.
What's their name?
Piast.
Yeah, Piast. Piast. We would say, yeah. Just get your act together, mate, please. Like, he's been so bad this season, just this season. But so Cordoba, for those who didn't watch the match for some reason, Cordoba went flying in the middle of the park, on the side, like the ball is right next to the touchline. Cordoba comes flying into Andrić, who's just chilling, took a touch, and Cordoba just comes flying into him. Thankfully he didn't raise his boots, to possibly break his leg, literally. Andrić, I mean, ran away unscathed, thankfully for him, because that could have ended very badly. And I think that's for me, it's a red. But I think most people, if he gave a red, I don't think you can really argue it.
No, I'll devil's advocate it here, which is the argument of whether it's a red or not is whether or not you feel that he was in control of that challenge. And the fact that studs are down and nothing's raised, I think that's probably the only thing. That's the only thing that's safe.
Yeah.
But there's so much force in that tackle.
The sheer force he came in.
Yeah.
Like, listen, I know he's come from Colombia. I know South American football is I think every tackle in South American football is exactly like that. He has to get accustomed.
Yeah, he can't just sprint and slide into people.
It's not Colombia, mate.
Yeah, I mean, if he got red, there probably would be someone who would be out there complaining. 20 years ago, back in my day, it was just a strong challenge.
Brexit means Brexit, lads. Okay, exactly. Let him go. Let him go. He's done nothing wrong. He's just doing it in the spirit of Brexit.
Yes, it was a full-blooded meat and potatoes tackle.
But for me, it's a red. But as you said, he did somewhat control it. It wasn't as bad as it could have been, but it's still bad.
Yeah, and I mean, watching the replays, I mean, he takes his. It's not just that he cleans them out. He cleans out and takes a standing leg as well, which for me that would be what would tip it over to a red card.
Yeah, and I was also worried that he would go into the tunnel. How fast he was going. I was ready for the people by the sideline, for the managers.
That's it. He just kind of felt like Strukan got the yellow card out to immediately book whoever it was on the sidelines, and just thought, well, I can't be bothered putting this back and getting the other one out. Right, you're getting the yellow card.
I mean, it happened exactly in front of the benches, and immediately, the whole Rijeka bench absolutely jumped. So if the Rijeka bench is getting a yellow card for complaining, how is Cordoba getting the same exact caution? The next one, which one do you want to comment next? Teofil Andrić or Rog?
We'll keep it on with Andrić.
Yeah. I mean, Andrić goes through. He's battling with Teofil for a ball to go through on goal, 1-on-1 with Nevistic, and he gets a hand on Teofil as he starts to jump, and Teofil absolutely smacks him in the face with his elbow.
Yeah, that wasn't actually in the highlights. Should have. It
wasn't?
No.
I mean, I didn't watch the highlights. I watched the match, so I didn't see that. But Andrić got a yellow for that. Imagine getting elbowed in the face and you get a yellow.
Yeah.
I mean, he does. I mean, the only thing that he does slightly touch Teofil, but for that to be a yellow for Andrić, no.
Mm-hmm. No,
because even if that is a yellow, then that's the standard. That's the standard you're putting there, as Duja Strukan. So how is Cordoba's challenge a yellow as well?
Yeah, there's no comparability.
There's no consistency. Again, that's the main problem with the referees. No consistency. How is Andrić getting a yellow for a slight push and getting elbow in the face after it?
Yeah,
and Cordoba comes flying in, almost takes his leg out, and gets a yellow.
Yeah,
it makes no sense to me. And I mean, Jankovic got nothing. So
yeah, should we talk about positive things now?
Yeah, so Shirley mentioned Jankovic absolutely steps. I mean, could have absolutely took Rog's ankle into two and got nothing. And I was watching that like, thank God, because I have in my fantasy team, so I got away from out there. So I mean, if that, I mean, I think you have to bring a gun on the football pitch and shoot a guy in the head to get a red card from Duja Strukan. It's the only explanation.
I'm not going to say what just came in mind. Anyway, there were goals in it as well. There were two, one all.
Yeah.
I think probably Dinamo were maybe. I don't think Dinamo may be unlucky, but Baturina had a couple of good chances, a couple of very similar good chances in terms of just stepping in off the left onto his right and kind of put it in exactly the same postage about a foot over on each occasion.
Just above.
And I think if his radar was in, then we'd be talking about probably quite a comfortable win rather than
I think
being a draw.
I think I already mentioned this. I don't know how long ago, but on the same exact podcast. But Dinamo was great for the first 30 minutes. Rijeka was absolutely shambolic. They were making mistakes. Dinamo was just dominating. But after the goal, Dinamo took their foot off the gas, and Rijeka slowly started getting back into the game. And I mean, straight after the halftime, the second halftime started, Hoxha puts one in, and Rijeka was, I mean, trying to get a second.
Yeah, a very good goal at that.
Yeah, very good goal.
And I think we were just seeing things from. There was frustration. It's just what it felt like from Dinamo. It was a very frustrated performance. Pekovic had missed a chance and just turned and just looked genuinely angry. I'm like,
yeah,
that is the most emotion I've seen you put in for a while. Because generally he's just moody.
Since scoring against Brazil in Qatar. Yeah. I mean, did you? So I'm guessing you watched the stream of Max Sport of the match.
Intermittently.
Yeah. Don't worry. I don't think anybody's gonna come for you for watching Croatian the HNL in England.
Well, but, if it was on Arena Sport, I would be.
Yeah, you would be.
I'd be the head.
Arena Sport do it like Boeing. You we wouldn't see you tomorrow.
Gonna say. On that note, I am gonna have to just die because it's 8:05.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'll surely wrap it up. Anything you want to add for Scotland in the Nations League?
Oh yes, Nations League. We haven't touched on that at all. It's very I think it'll be interesting to see. I think it seems like we are going to see 3-5-2, and Piazza's a right wing back, which should be interesting against Portugal.
Yeah.
But I think Portugal are quite changed as well. It just seems like with almost every side in the region, this particular international break, everyone's injured, and they're on their fullbacks.
Yeah, and for Scotland?
For Scotland, we're crap.
That's it.
That was it all summer. I don't think there's much change in that. We're horribly injury hitters again.
Yeah. Anyways, I'll let you go.
Bid you adieu, and I'll put the kids to bed. Goodbye.
Yeah. Bye. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, you're stuck with me for the remaining. For the remaining minutes, however long I want to drag this out. To also touch what I was just asking Richard if he watched the match on Max Sport. Was that because Angelo Ketzman was the commentator of that match, and he swapped up Kolenovic and Petkovic for the first goal, and it was absolutely laughable to see on television because I know the commentating spot is the same as we see from from our TV coverage. It's a bit dodgy. You're more on the right side on the Rujevica, from what I heard. When you're a commentator, you're more on the right side. So the look on the goal on the left side, which Rijeka was on, it's very awful to watch and commentate from. But Petkovic was scoring the goal, and Kecman is absolutely screaming off. It's like Kolenovic has done it again. No, mate, it's Petkovic. And the moment of realizing, you can see it. He goes to say Kolenovic again. He says like Kole, and then he just a moment of silence of fucked up, didn't I? But brilliant stuff of comedy. What else? I mean, Dinamo just kind of looked like a side that probably partied a bit too much against Karabakh. But I mean, you got into the Champions League, which I mean, you guaranteed yourself 34 million. I don't think you're really going to be fussed about drawing to Rijeka, which is probably, if not your second hardest away game of the season. So a draw, if you get a point, I think that you didn't lose, which probably means a lot to Dinamo. And a fun stat: they've led the league now 5 game weeks, which is the same amount of game weeks they led last season. Yeah, perfect. Now the Nations League, as Richard already mentioned before he went to put his kids to bed. We are probably going to play a 3-5-2, which is probably the most likely outcome for tomorrow against Portugal. Well, on the day you're listening to this today, we're probably going to play a 3-5-2 with Livakovic in goal, Šutalo, Pogreščić, Guardiol, Piazza, as Richard mentioned, on the right, Modric probably, Pašalić, Kovacic, Sosa, and I think Kramaric and Petkovic will be as the striker duo. Maybe we see Sucic. Maybe you see Sucic. Maybe you see somebody else in that midfield. I mean, I'm talking about Luka Sucic. Petr Sucic will probably come off the bench, I think, in that game. I hope. Matanovic also. I would like to see him, if not against Portugal, against Poland on Sunday. But I'm looking forward to this Nations League campaign, even though most of our players are just injured, which is not great to see. But we'll see how we do with the 3 at the back, which hasn't done us any good previously. When we tried it, when Dalic tried it, hasn't worked out at all. My first ever game I reported on Twitter was our friendly against Tunisia, where we played a 3 at the back. We lost. Hopefully, Dalic, we don't do that again. But yeah, it's. I mean, for those that don't know, for those that don't really follow the Nations League, the Nations League format has changed in the sense that the top 2 teams go into the quarterfinals. They are now quarterfinals. You're now going into the final 4. You now have the quarterfinals. So if we finish second, we go into the quarterfinals. If we finish first, we go into the quarterfinals. If we finish third, we have a promotion or relegation playoff with the team in second, I think. And the team in second and whatever B group we get matched up with. So it's just not great because you're gonna have to play more games. If you get relegated, you're done with the Nations League until the next campaign. But the main issue that comes with this is UEFA changed from what I think, and most people seem to think the same. They've changed the Nations League format without even considering the World Cup qualification pots. So the pots are going to be, I don't even want to head into explaining it. Just head onto Twitter, search up V Global Football. I think Global Football, I something along those lines. They've explained it. I actually retweeted it, so you can head onto my profile and see that because they made a mess of it, ladies and gentlemen. They made a mess of it. But yeah, hopefully we can do good in this Nations League campaign. If we can get into the final 4, get into the quarterfinals, we should be aiming for that because that's the top 2, and we should not be finishing behind Scotland and Poland. Those 2 teams. Richard, I'm sorry if you're listening to this. Scotland is shite, as you already mentioned, and Poland is even shittier by my standards. So if we do not get second place here, we've done something very awfully wrong, which is probably the three at the back. I'm a fan of the three at back. I think it can work with us, and I like that Piazza is gonna be on the right. Somebody, it's not his natural position, but then again, he's been playing on the right for Dinamo and has been very good. And we're finally gonna get probably Sosa back into the lineup, which so then you have Sosa, then you have Piazza. You have two players who can cross the ball. Imagine that we can have two players that can cross the ball. If only we could start Budimir then, and then see if we can actually, create something. Because we did the same exact thing against Armenia, where we had to win. Sosa crosses in, Budimir heads it into the goal. Please, Dalic, just get Budimir in. Get Kramaric and Budimir, Petkovic and Budimir. Please. But yeah. I don't want to add anything else. I think we've talked about everything. Actually, I just see we missed the Šibenik money problems, which I had on my talking points over here, and I also touched on Mario Vušković. Šibenik reportedly has missed paying their salaries to their players, which is not great, especially considering how well they've started the season off and how good they look game in, game out. It's not the first time this has happened in Šibenik. This happened, I think, even the last time they were in the HNL when they got relegated. It's just not a very well run club. It's just what's been happening at the club for the last 3 years. Not very well run. Sarevic, there have been some talks that Sarevic might get sacked. Which, how can you justify that? I mean, you can justify the lack of money, but how are you going to justify it to the fans? To the players, the players probably just want their money. Who wouldn't? Yeah, not great. And Mario Vušković, his doping ban has been prolonged for another 2 years, so he cannot play until 2026. And it's just sad to see because the whole procedure is flawed. It's not great for a young player. They offered them 1 year ban when it started, to admit that he was wrong, that he took it, the EPO. I don't want to go into the full name because my tongue hurts from speaking. We've been at this for almost an hour and 40 minutes. My tongue hurts, especially when I'm alone. But yeah, I gotta try to pronounce the name of the drug. But yeah, it's been great to see everybody post their support for Vušković and the Hamburg players canceling their training session to go to Split and be with Vušković. And it's absolutely tough for him because he cannot play football. He cannot train with anybody, not even an amateur side. He cannot do anything. He can play by himself, but yeah. But from what I've heard and saw, is he's just doing any sport he can to stay in shape, stay fit, and be prepared for 2026 when it comes back. And I wouldn't take out the possibility of him coming back to Hajduk after his doping ban ends. That she just seems like a reasonable and a good move for him and for the club in 2 years' time, because obviously Vušković, at the time of the ban, he was probably, not probably, I'm gonna just say it, the best defender at Hamburg at that time, and it's just awful to see because he probably would have been in the national team by now if that doping ban didn't happen, and it's been awful to see it unravel this way, and I just want to see him on the back training as soon as possible, and if that means a Hajduk, Hajduk will definitely take him, and I think he'll take Hajduk. His contract with Hamburg ends in 2025, so next year, in under a year's time, his contract will probably end unless they can extend it. But we'll see. Maybe Hamburg doesn't want to do that because obviously gotta wait for your player until 2026. I think it's November when he'll get back. So yeah, not great. And anything else to mention? Talked about that. covered everything, ladies and gentlemen, that I wanted to talk about. So yeah, thank you for listening. It's been a long one. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you guys next week. And hopefully Richard doesn't disconnect more than once. Yeah. Thank you guys for listening, and